budget, the economy as well. Now, Jim Molan was one of the co-architects of that campaign, the Operation Sovereign Borders. He's now a Liberal senator, and I caught up with him a short time ago to talk about the government's view and the reopening of the Christmas Island Detention Centre. Senator Jim Molan, welcome.
Thanks, Patricia.
The Coalition has always argued that the people smugglers are watching for any change in messaging. Given the changes passed by the Senate this afternoon, do you anticipate that they're watching that closely, and what message does the reopening of Christmas Island Detention Centre send?
Well, they do watch us very, very closely, and now that we've seen, Patricia, the bill sponsored by Mr Shorten and the Greens and some crossbenchers go through both houses, we now have, although we still control our borders, our control is weakened. The government has reacted to that. They had a National Security Committee meeting this morning, and they've come out with a number of policies that perhaps we could talk about later. But I did notice just before coming in now on social media, Patricia, that to quote David Spears, that the beast has stirred. Apparently our intelligence organisations are saying that there is activity amongst people smugglers, and this will be electronic and communications activity, because they do watch us very closely.
So what are they watching? Because doesn't the reopening of the Christmas Island Detention Centre send that message that you're open for business?
No, it doesn't send that message as the primary message. What message that sends is quite simple, and it backs up the simple proposition that strength deters and weakness provokes. We have shown weakness. That will provoke people to come to Australia that are not fully clear. That will provoke, in all certainty, the movement of boats from Indonesia to Australia. And the message that goes to these people, they know what the ALP looks like. They know what the ALP looks like, Patricia. They know by comparison that we have resolve.
Isn't it irresponsible to suggest that Australia's borders are less secure now?
That is absolutely wrong. 100% wrong. Because, I mean, I do have some experience in this.
But when you say that, you're actually also telling that to people smugglers, aren't you?
Well, what do you think that they've been watching for the last, ever since the end of... What do you think they were watching in the Senate, Patricia?
It is now the Prime Minister.
They watched us vote 22 times on this bill in the Senate. They watched at the end, when was it, December the 8th or something, when this was rammed through the Senate. That's what they watched. That's what they know.
But aren't they equally watching what the Prime Minister is saying, which is that our borders are less secure? Should the Prime Minister be saying publicly that our borders are less secure?
Hey, do you really think they are that silly? Do you really think that, given that this is the third time that Labor has shown appalling weakness on defence, that the people smugglers don't know what's going on? Hey, they're used to the Labor Party. They know that we have resolve. They know the Labor Party doesn't have resolve, Patricia. They're not stupid.
Do you accept that under the amendments just passed by the House and the Senate, that any asylum seekers intercepted would still be sent to Nauru and Manus Island and would not be able to come to Australia?
That's my understanding, yeah.
OK, so shouldn't the Prime Minister be explicit and say that?
Yes, but this... See,
so why hasn't he?
Do you want to... Can I answer?
Sure.
You've given me a proposition, and it really goes to what lies behind our extraordinary success in border control, and that is not the little things such as turnbacks, temporary protection visas, offshore processing. It is government resolve. Those three things I just mentioned there, of which Labor has blown away two in the past, and I cannot believe they'll ever do turnbacks, those three things go to the demonstration of the coalition government, particularly under Scott Morrison, that he and this government stands between the people smugglers and Australia. That's what's important, Patricia. The detail of it, this is... I've heard people talk this morning about the Canberra bubble. That doesn't exist for the people smugglers. They will sell to the 14,000 people who are on the blocks in Indonesia.
Sure.
They will sell. The government's weak now.
So if we accept your logic there, isn't it more important than ever that the Prime Minister and other senior people, including you, make it explicit that if a boat were to arrive, none of those people would be subjected to those new laws? None of those people would be able to get two doctors to check on them?
I can just see the situation in the big hotels in central Java where people smugglers store their people. I can just see the subtleties of what you're saying being explained.
But I'm saying...
Hey, no, it doesn't happen.
OK,
doesn't
so you're
happen
saying
like that.
Are you saying that you won't send that message?
We are sending the message. We're sending the message, and the message will get stronger in the next couple of days. At the moment, you know, it's only hours since the bill has become law.
And what will that message be?
And there's an implementation report being prepared by Home Affairs, and that will be reflected in what I think came out of the National Security Committee of Cabinet this morning, that more resources will be deployed on the sea and in the air, more surveillance resources, that we've opened Christmas Island because of transferees to Christmas Island directly or possibly from transfers from Nauru and Manus. So these are the contingency plans that have come out. Now, the message that we have got, the PM absolutely delivered beautifully this morning, and that message was that he and the coalition government stands between the people smugglers and Australians, just as we did back in 2013. We did it brilliantly.
And isn't it the case that under these new laws, no new asylum seekers who would arrive on any new boats would make it to Australia?
Well, I don't know, because what if they get sick?
But it's in
what
the
if they get sick? Well, what if they get sick? We ran this first bill on the basis...
Because but the detail does matter, Senator, and the detail says that any new arrivals would not be subjected to the new laws.
Hey, this is a real problem for us. It's not your fault, it's not my fault. And that is the perception of what happens in Indonesia to people seeking asylum in this country, trying to become illegal maritime arrivals through the people smugglers. That does not matter.
Okay, so
as I said before,
your responsibility as a government to make it clear?
What matters is the perception of government could not have been made more clear this morning by the PM, Patricia. Run the tape again.
But the PM wouldn't actually speak those words to say no one who would arrive would be subjected to this new regime.
What is critically important is the big message. And the big message has been success from 2013 until now. Success from 2013 to now. Why? Because government had resolve.
Senator,
they did three major things.
That's a political message. I'm talking about the message to people smugglers, not to Australian voters.
It's not, Patricia. It is the key message is government resolve. Labor doesn't have it, we have it.
Scott Morrison says border patrols will be stepped up, but if any boats do arrive, it will be on Labor's head. That's what he says. Yep. Isn't it the job of the government of Border Force to keep our borders secure?
And we still have control of those borders. It's just that the Labor Party, the Greens and some crossbenchers have weakened that control. That control, because, as I said before, the people smugglers won't get into the detail of this. They will start working. As we saw on social media, the beast has stirred.
You say the beast is stirred, and you're actually quoting a reporter.
Yep.
Do you have any evidence that there's any stirring of any beast?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying I have evidence. I'm not saying I can prove it. I reported that accurately. I said the name of the journo, but he claims that he was told that by Australian intelligence.
Sure. And what are you hearing?
Nothing.
So that the beast hasn't been stirred according to the information you're getting?
Oh, don't be silly.
I'm
a backbencher. I'm working through the Intelligence and Security Committee. I've got other things to work on. You invited me to come on your show. If you wanted the intelligence people to speak to you, get the intel people. What I've heard has nothing to do with intelligence. I merely reported what David Spears was saying.
Karen Phelps and others argue that boat turnbacks are the most effective element of our border protection policies. And of course, you were an architect of Operation Sovereign Borders. Given that role you've played, what do you make of that argument?
I think it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It just proves that Karen Phelps, who I saw in an interview only a day or so ago, has suddenly become a great supporter of Operation Sovereign Borders. Operation Sovereign Borders is based on three tactics. Turnbacks is one of them, temporary protection visas is the other, and offshore processing. Labor, Bill Shorten, has pulled down temporary protection visas. Today we see the destruction of the integrity of offshore processing, and who can believe, with the Jed Carneys of this world and the 30 caucus members who a year ago said that they could not support turnbacks, that a Prime Minister from the Labor side of politics will ever do
Sure, but I'm
turnback.
asking you about the policy, not the politics, if we can try and park the politics. I know it's very much in this debate. But but the turnbacks, isn't that the crucial element?
No, it's not the crucial element. And this is a key question. There are three elements which must work together. In other circumstances, there may be four. We see what's happening in the Mediterranean. We see 1.8 million people have crossed the Mediterranean and many, many have died. In our case, it is the three things working together.
Thank you so much for your time, Senator.
Patricia,